When is your NCE meeting?
Ten.
Okay,
Yeah,
Alright.
yeah, I'll be around for a while.
okay, sounds good.
Mike, just a quick note, you're not muted.
Thank you very much.
Sarah, did she say 9 or 9:15? Come on. Rachel, was it 9 o'clock?
Yep, 9 o'clock.
And Rachel, you'll let me know when I'm on.
You are on now.
Thank
I
you,
think I saw
Rachel.
everyone pop in.
Is everyone back? Thank you. Good morning. My name is Sarah Peets, and on behalf of the Nebraska Arts Council, I'd like to welcome you to this panel meeting. We have convened to review applications in the Arts Project Grant category of visual arts today. Decisions made by this panel will determine the funding for all of the applications. They will be reviewed by the Nebraska Arts Council at our next meeting, which will convene on June 4th, 2024. At this time, I'd like to introduce each of our panelists and actually have them introduce themselves to all of you listening in. And I will call upon you one by one. Our first panelist is Linda Janulovich.
Good morning. My name is Lindy Janulevich, and I'm the Executive Director of the Fremont Area Art Association. And we are a nonprofit art gallery located in Fremont, Nebraska.
Thank you, Lindy. Our next panelist is Erica Nelson.
Good morning. I'm Erica Nelson. I live in north central Kansas in a rural town of 300. I served for close to 5 years with the Kansas Creative Arts Industries Commission, but I'm now the Cultural Resources Director for an artist-built environment that is a cornerstone of our creative community.
Thank you, Erica. And our next panelist is Dawn Martinez Oropeza.
Hi, good morning. I'm Dawn Martinez Oropeza. I am here from Iowa. I was with the Iowa Arts Council for multiple years. I moved to Alexito as the Executive Director, statewide agency here in Iowa. And I'm also a performing dancer and artist.
Thank you, Dawn. And our fourth panelist today is Susan Trinkle Tamayo.
Good morning. I'm Susan Trinkle Tamayo. I'm the Dean of Humanities and the Arts at Metropolitan Community College.
Thank you. Thanks to all the panelists for all the time you've done in preparing for this and for participating in this grant panel today. In addition to the panelists, we have Nebraska Arts Council staff members present. They include Mike Markey, who is the Executive Director, and Rachel Morgan, who is the Program Specialist and our fearless leader today. We have Communications Manager Sam Henney, and he is on hand to assist with online technical issues should they occur. Our Grants Administrator, Jennifer Dreibelbus, is managing the scoring and online grant system. And Program Coordinator, Stephanie Plummer, will be taking the minutes. Thank you all to the staff. Mike, would you like to get us started today with a few comments, please?
Sure. Thank you, Sarah, and thank you for leading us all through the applications today. And my thanks to the panelists for helping out today with looking at the applications. And my thanks to everybody who put in the applications. It's always wonderful to see the work that's going on across the state, and congratulations on the beginnings of your projects. I hope that they all go very well. Thanks for joining us today. I hope that you find it all very educational. The panelists will have lots of wonderful remarks to share with you, and most of them will have to do with improving your applications or your projects. So I hope you take them all to heart. Beyond that, I just wanted to remind you of a few things, and that is that the support for the arts always is important, public arts, and that you are a big help in that. If you will remember to invite your elected officials to your events, let them know what's going on in your community and in the arts in your community, and then thank them afterwards for their support of public arts. So it's always very important, especially in the coming year when there'll be a new budget request. Wanted to let you know that we will be unveiling our strategic plan, and so I encourage you to take a look at that, see what the Arts Council is going to be about for the next 3 years and how it will resonate with the work that you do. Finally, then I wanted to let you know that this fall we will be having our statewide arts conference, September 5th and 6th in Beatrice, Nebraska, and I encourage you to take a look at that. And if you can make it out, there'll be all sorts of wonderful workshops, speakers, and a chance to meet with the other folks across the state that are doing work similar to yours. With that, I will hand you back to Sarah. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mike. And we will get started with this process, and I'm going to turn it over to Rachel, who will lead us through the procedure.
Sure. So just a little explanation for those of you listening in how today will go. The panel today is focused on projects that are visual arts based. So that's why you will only see projects with that focus to it. We will be going in alphabetical order. the way the live stream works, the applicants will not be able to interact with the panel, but you do get to listen in and hear the discussion, which is always incredibly helpful and a great learning experience. That is one of the good things that came out of a pandemic, is forcing us all online. And I think these Zoom panels, it has really increased that accessibility, that applicants are able to listen into the discussion. And I think it's really great. You will be provided written comments as well, written minutes. So if you're not able to join us today, we will still be sending out written comments and minutes from these panels. So you will be able to hear what the panelists discussed about your application. And with that, I will hand it over to Sarah.
All right. Thank you, Rachel. So we are ready to get started. I will first have Rachel go through a brief synopsis of each application. I will then call on the primary reviewer to make comments. I will then call on the secondary reviewer to make comments, and any other comments are welcome beyond that. And then I will give you a moment to complete your scores. And if you could give me a thumbs up, virtual or actual, that will be my cue to move on to the next application. So, Rachel, please get us started with the first grant application.
Thank you, Sarah. Our first application is from Amplify Arts. The Generator series provides funding, space, and connection, creating a unique opportunity for artists, emerging artists in particular, to gain professional skills developing and executing a group exhibition or performance. Inviting the community to these experiences expands the artist networks and ties to the community. Projects take place on a bi-monthly schedule at Generator Space, the gallery that is located on 18th and Benton in Omaha.
Thank you. Our primary reviewer for Amplify Arts is Erica. Would you get us started, Erica, with your comments?
Thanks for having me kick off this exciting review process. It really does help strengthen everybody's applications. And we're starting off with a strong one. I really appreciated their established record of equity in programming, and having these partnerships illustrated to show that responsiveness to polling their artists, seeing what artists need, and keeping artists at the core of their programming. So I am also glad to see the enhanced programming that's elevating outreach partnerships that are in that sort of engagement narrative. And it seems like in all of the narratives written, the artists are at the core, and the program is designed to trust the artist. And that, to me, really spoke highly of not just the writing of the narrative, but the intention behind the narrative, which is the key component. Notes-wise, I feel like there is a well-executed and clear description of the timeline, of the expectations, and the budget breakdown with outcome and goals. The only concern I had, and it's concern's a pretty harsh word for just asking for clarity. In talking about where Nebraska Arts Council funds are being spent, it says primarily administration. However, the budget reflects that much of the monies are going to the artists of the cohorts that are being formed within this program. So that was just a little clarification that caused a bit of confusion on my end of having the budget and the narrative match each other, because they're just two ways to tell the same story and should very directly reflect each other. So that was the only sort of concern comment that I had in this review. And as a partial aside, I want to see each of these projects. So that's the other part of being on these panels, is getting to see what's happening in Nebraska and seeing the potential for what's happening in Nebraska. So I am so excited for this. That's an aside.
Thank you. Erica, are you ready to move on? Thank you. Great comments. And now we will move to Dawn, who is the secondary reviewer for this.
Erica did a great job. So I will, again, it's really a thoughtful and explorative program for everyone involved. They have a very interesting list of alumni and great cast of administrators that are taking care of the program. For artistic quality, it would have been nice to hear a little bit more how important it is, the project is to the greater community. That would have kind of strengthened that score, the general population. For planning and evaluation, I love that they have brought in an outside researcher to like really look at the statistics of the application, and if they could show a little bit more of their impact, like from previous programs in the evaluation would have been helpful. But that's a great, very thoughtful way of evaluating. And the one piece of this that I find really intriguing is the patron relationship and building a following for the artist. I would like to see some of the evaluation going to that piece of this project. It'd also be beneficial to discuss more how the artist is making a relationship with the patron, because I don't think an art exhibit builds that relationship in the same kind of way. And I'd like to see a little bit more information on that. The budget is pretty sparse, very doable for sure. One of the I would like to see a little bit, even though they're bringing in a diverse group, they're kind of leaning heavily on the artists to do the outreach and promotion to the diverse audiences. But I would like to see a little bit more intentionality and them taking ownership of that as well, or working with the artists to develop Spanish language or other means to get the word out. And with Latinos being the largest and fastest growing population, there wasn't a lot of artists that have been involved. And so I'm curious about that, like what they're doing to make sure that Latino artists are involved. And the question I have, and I can't contextualize it really, but I wrote it down, is like, how responsive are they being to the artist's needs? They have a really clear program. It's a great program, but are they really taking into account, like, is this how the artist, what they need in their career? And are they evaluating that? But definitely an amazing project. I want to go see it as well, and follow all the artists. So well done. And my questions are more like, I think, to strengthen and build the program.
Thank you, Dawn. Thanks. Great comments. And Lindy or Susan, do you have any extra comments you want to add? So now I'll give you, go ahead, Susan. Did you want to?
Oh, I was just going to say, I was very supportive of this as well. I think I've seen a lot of artists kind of have their careers launched through here. They have a good explanation of how they do that, and the fact that this goes so heavily to the artists and economic sustainability for an artist is something that I was excited to see. I think the ratio of the admin fees to what the project is really good. I wasn't sure exactly. I kind of looked at this after I'm sorry, who I think it was it Erica who started this one? Yeah. And I was just looking to see what that was, and I wondered if maybe the administrative fees was that maybe the running of the gallery, which the generator space is entirely one of the huge projects that they do for the artists. So I didn't know if maybe those looked like admin fees, but they were like the gallery rent fees. But overall, I think this is a great project for artists.
Thank you. Go ahead and take a moment to finish up the scoring and give me a thumbs up when you are ready to move on to the next application. Don, did I get everybody else? Lindy, Erica, and Susan. Great. Thank you. Okay, Rachel, take us to the next grant application for the synopsis, please.
Sarah, our next application is from the COZAD Development Foundation, and they are seeking funding to establish a sculpture walk as part of the Sculpture Walk Across Nebraska, which the acronym is SWAN, which is very picturesque. The SWAN program. SWAN is a cooperative effort between communities across Nebraska to provide a revolving art experience and walkable districts. The Sculpture Walk aims to showcase 4 initial sculptures strategically located across from the new Robert Henry Art Gallery. The sculptures will rotate annually, providing an ever-evolving artistic experience. And this grant will support acquisition and installation.
Very good. And I will turn it over to our primary reviewer on this application, Susan. Get us started.
Thank you. Okay, so for the artistic quality, I thought this is good. This is a well-known project, and I'd be happy to see COZAD be a part of SWAN. Looking at previous art or art in the other cities gave me an idea of what kind of art they would be including, since they did mention that they were going to select for the first year from the existing art that was part of the program. I think maybe if they were to have some indication of what style, what type, maybe some pieces that they were hoping for might have helped. I would also like to have seen maybe pictures of just that space, because they did talk a lot about how it enriched the environment of the entire region surrounding where the walk would be. They mentioned the Henry Museum that this would be across from, and I think it would have been really neat just to see how what it looks like now and how art being in that place could have really enhanced the space and been a great addition to that creative district. One question I had about this was, I wasn't quite clear about how the pedestals were going to function, because it almost sounded like they were kind of a dual function, that they would be the pedestals for the sculpture, but also a memorial for individuals, since this is also in Veterans Park. Sometimes I think, having a dual function like that might not necessarily be conflicting, but there's kind of 2 different functions with public art and memorials. I was interested in knowing, like, what would that look like physically? What would the pedestals look like if names were inscribed on them? Would it be very simple and understated, or would it kind of be artistic in its own right? The project and the artists involved being important to the community. Yes, I like to see that. I think this is one where there was a local artist who was going to be having an artist there. So that was really neat that they would have somebody from their own community showing their work, and inviting artists in the future through a selection process, I thought was good as well, to make sure that you have voices from lots of people in the community. Okay. I thought the planning and evaluation was very good. The goals were clearly listed, good explanation of how it would improve the city. I can tell, there's a lot written about how this could bring some economic development, and that was a prominent goal definitely well supported by the letters of support. I think it would be good to find a way to gather feelings of the community, to find out how much of the community does not visit, and why they might not visit. I think they had a pretty good reporting and evaluation process, but it would be good to see if they can find any way to increase participation or viewership. Of course, after it's been going for a year or so, just to see how the individual community likes the art. I think the timeline and the budget's very realistic. The budget, I think on this one goes entirely to making sure that the art gets there with the pedestals and the artwork itself. So I thought that was very good. I like that they were planning to have some promotional materials for this and that they would have it in Spanish as well. Trying to include all members of the community, that it's ADA accessible is great. One of the aspects of the outreach was something I had some questions about. I think there were a lot of artistic events listed that could be a good opportunity for engagement and outreach. So clarifying how you might use those events to promote the walk would be good. And would there be any educational activities or any tools used in conjunction with some of those events? Would there be any kind of a QR code on them? Would there be anything like a walking tour that they could follow with either cell phones or maybe even in print? So maybe programming that could accompany the walk would have been good to see. Although, this is just getting it off the ground. So I would expect that, there would be a lot of building upon this as the years go by. The letters of support were good. I think I would like to see a letter or information about how does the typical community in Cozad, the demographics, how would they like to see this? A lot of the times we get letters from people who have an interest in the economic viability of the city, which I think is really important. I don't want to understate, that art is a huge economic boost to a city, but finding out of just about how people would enjoy it, how much they want to see this as part of their neighborhood, I think would also be neat to see in the future. And maybe we'd see that in future requests down the road after this is up and running. But overall, it was a good project, and I liked it and supported it.
Thank you, Susan. And Lindy, as our secondary reviewer, we'll hear your comments.
I echo much of what Susan said. I fully support the Swan Project. I think it's well established, and I really commend Cozad as a small rural community for their efforts to bring public art to their town. I think that a lot of rural communities perhaps don't make that effort, and they clearly have a strong desire to do this and a lot of community support to do this. I liked that they had a really strong sense of remembrance by incorporating the Veterans Park. I think Susan touched on that, and I like that they're marrying two different things that are important to their town, two different priorities, and that they're building on the strengths of both things to maybe even promote this to different audiences and do some audience sharing. So I thought that was a really good thing. I liked that they were going to incorporate local and non-local artists. I think that that's really important. And I really commend them for reaching out and trying to include both. Moving on to the planning and evaluation part of it, I was very impressed with their honest effort to survey and obtain feedback from the many different audiences that will be involved with the project. And I think Susan touched on that too. They seem to have a very thorough grasp on the groups and how to best gather information from them. And surveying is hard. It's hard to get feedback from people. It's hard to get honest feedback. And I think that they have a very nice plan on how to do that. I echo what Susan said in that their timeline and their budget seems realistic, simple, straightforward. And regarding outreach, my notes here, the organization clearly understands and is intimately connected to their community. They're small, everybody knows everybody, with fewer than 4,000 residents. And I like that they are very in tune with their town's needs and their community's desires, and that they are thinking about future potential for this project. And I also like that they took very good steps to make this accessible. They know that the pieces are located in ADA accessible locations. They're taking steps to make the materials available in both English and Spanish. And again, with a smaller community, with perhaps more limited resources, I commend them for taking these steps and for doing this. I also noticed that they had a very robust programming calendar, which aims to engage the community throughout the year. They have lots of what I call reasons to visit. And I love that. I love that they were planning different things to draw people out of their homes and to the artwork all year long. I was also impressed by their letters of support. They were authentic, and both of the writers, the authors of the letters, were very in favor of the project. So that tells me that they're a representation of the community as a whole.
Thank you, Lindy. And Dawn or Erica, do you have any further comments that you would like to make?
Yeah, one of the things that they said was about promotion only being online. And they made a comment about it, it's only for tech savvy audiences, or it's convenient for tech savvy audiences, which also leaves me to a question, because they didn't really talk about a target audience, especially outside of their community. So being more specific about that, and knowing that not everybody has access to online promotion. And so how can they make a more genuine outreach? Also, the team is really great. It's a lot of community leaders and very diverse group. However, a lot of times the leaders of the community don't always have a knowledge or a partnership or an understanding or speak for those who are not in a leadership role or low income or marginalized populations. And so maybe seeing that diversified a little bit would be helpful. Also, the installation cost, the budget cost is $250 for installation. Since I didn't get a clear understanding of what the sculptures are and what the bases are and things like that, like from a installation perspective, it seemed low for labor, but I could be wrong, but I didn't quite understand the mechanism. So a little bit more on that. I do think that they have a great opportunity to market. If they want to bring people in, you have to put some money into marketing expenses, which there wasn't any in the budget. And again, it goes back to online is free, but even though somebody's doing the online, really investing in bringing people in takes some money and some effort to target people outside of your community. And that would be a great opportunity, as well as engaging some of the local businesses and, that are around, they have an economic piece to this, which is great, and that economic goal. Like if you go see the sculpture and you get a discount at a store or something, like engage more businesses would be great. So that's all.
Thank you, Dawn. Okay, we'll take a minute to complete
Erica, sorry, Erica, I saw you unmuted.
Thank you, Erica. Sorry about that.
I just had one tiny addition to that. Looking at the budget and the narrative once again, for me, it's budget and timeline. And it looks like in the timeline, there's an overlap of 2 sculpture installations, one from the Swan Group, but then one resulting from a call for entries. Budget-wise, it only reflected 4 artistic fees. So for me, it was clarifying, is that 4 just for the Swan Group or split between 2 years of 2 and 2? So when you're talking about multiple phases for a project, just being super clear that the budget illustration matches all of the narratives that you're creating. So that was the only sort of hiccup for me that was noted in the budget section. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Erica. Now I'll give you guys a moment to score, and then you can indicate when you're done.
Can I say one more thing for the notes?
Sure. Yes, please.
More information on the education and the tours. They didn't use all their characters, and that would have been a really good area to kind of bulk up on and talk a little bit more about.
Thank you. Done. Lindy, thanks. Thank you, Erica. And Susan, are you still working? Are you ready? Okay, thank you. I didn't want to rush you. Now we'll move on to the Pioneer Village application. Rachel, please take us into that.
Thanks, Sarah. So the next application is from the Harold Warp Pioneer Village Foundation. And this grant will help the Pioneer Village to create a high definition mural encompassing approximately 1,600 square feet on both its west side and south side building facade. This undertaking would represent America's pioneering technological advances since 1830. Creating a storefront mural will improve the visibility of the museum and will be a major artistic achievement in the community that will draw heightened visitation to both the museum and the town of Minden.
All right, thank you, Rachel. And Lindy, you are up to be our primary reviewer on this particular application.
Okay, beginning with the artistic quality comments. I appreciate that the mural is intended to be a very large scale project and that it will be visible at the intersection of two major highways. I think that their planning for their visibility for that particular project is nice. I also enjoyed that they have plans to stream the artistic process for people who want to watch the renderings as they develop. And I personally think that that creates a really nice engagement opportunity for people to engage in the artistic process for townspeople and beyond. Again, as we mentioned, with the advent of the online process, anybody can log in and be a part of that. And I appreciate that they're making an effort to be inclusive in that way and get everyone involved who is interested in being a part of the process. Their board intends to hire a very prominent local mural art group that has experience and resources to complete the project. This group has done lots of other different projects throughout their town and area. And so I appreciate that they're using someone who is capable of completing such a large scale project. And the mural will also call attention to the museum and give a bit of notoriety to their community. Again, Minden is a very small, more rural community, and the Pioneer Village is a destination. It's a travel destination. It's a history destination. And to incorporate art into that, again, to give it a reason, cause to visit is very important. And I support that. I think that's a great thing. Moving on to planning and evaluation, I felt that they had measurable goals with a realistic timeline regarding their plan. And I think that they have a concrete way to gather feedback from their community members and museum visitors by way of surveys. They're fortunate that they have an automatic audience there with people that would visit the museum already, so they can survey those people easily. They also define who they hope to attract to the museum by way of the mural. They want to attract new visitors. They want to attract a diverse community, a diverse audience, and I think that their subject matter for the image will accomplish those things. Myself, I felt that the budget was realistic and that they reflect between the numbers and the narrative what their plan is, and it seemed realistic in what they were hoping to do. For outreach, they have a vision and a plan to attract people from not only their direct community, but also beyond, from the town and the state and the region overall. And I believe that the mural will give them a reason for more people to come and visit. Installation is free and open to the public. I think that that is a huge draw. I think that public art should be accessible and should be available to all. And even someone just driving by this particular installation would be able to take something from it, which I think is great. I like that that they have an idea for their opening weekend. One thought that I had for promotion and for including an underserved population would be to offer a discounted entrance fee for their opening weekend. They didn't mention anything about that, and I know that it does cost to go into the museum, but perhaps they could offer a more affordable ticket on that particular opening weekend. Again, just making an effort to make it accessible to everyone. They're partnering with different organizations in their community, like the Chamber and their local opera house, again, to co-promote and to audience share, which I think is great. Their letters of support were heartfelt, very factual, and very passionate about the enthusiasm and the renewed interest in the Harold Wart Pioneer Village overall. My impression from their narrative was that they're under relatively new leadership, and that this individual and the group that they have assembled to help them is very excited about improving the destination, about incorporating things like public art, and about growing this. And I think that's, again, a wonderful thing for a smaller town. The letters definitely speak to the energy and the growth of the museum and the community as a whole, and I appreciated that. That's what I've got.
I think you said Dawn, Sarah. You're mute.
Sorry
Okay.
about that. Dawn, you're
okay.
up. Secondary reviewer. And Lindy, thank you.
I wish I would have known more about this museum. I think I don't know what the Pioneer Village is, or if it's a destination spot. Having more of an overview of that would be great, because I'm not from Nebraska. I think they have a very accomplished administrator, and with a really great resume, so that's a definite positive. I think I have more questions about this one. The artist sample was not really, their style isn't really like photorealism or something that does historical preservation type of like work. And so I would have liked to seen a little bit more of the artist samples that in the style that they would like to see done as the mural. And then and maybe even a resume or a CV. I don't think I saw that for the artistic quality pieces. I would like to, another question I have with artistic quality is, there's a question which wasn't addressed of, like, if they put the mural up, people will come. But I also have a question about historical preservation. Is this a horse, like when they talk about Pioneer Village, and is it a historical site? And would a mural damage some of the historical buildings? So I was very kind of confused on all of that. More details, especially with the reenactment piece of the murals. I just wasn't sure if a contemporary mural would take away from like the historical details of a place. And so I would have liked more information on that. I think that they have a really great goal when it comes to planning and evaluation, attracting more visitors. But tell me how. Tell me how you're going to bring people in. Like, a mural alone isn't going to draw people in. So more information would have been helpful. Evaluating, they're not really measuring. They say they want to bring in more people, but they're not measuring that number of people. So more on that. The planning timeline seemed a little off, but I think I wasn't quite understanding where the artist was working, if they're working in the community, outside the community. Students would be involved, but it's like the project is December through June, so it seems like it's an indoor mural, and then it will be added on. More information on the educational planning would have been really helpful. And the workshops that they mentioned. Give me details on those workshops, what's happening. I would have liked more detail in the budget as well. Like it would have helped me understand what was happening with the project. Like there wasn't any materials and labor breakdowns in the budget. So that might have given me an idea. Seems like there's travel expenses and newspaper expenses, but give me more detail on those as well. And they do have the majority of the money for this mural, which is really commendable and great. But still would like more information. They really, like, it's a very broad scope of, we're gonna bring in, they didn't say this is our target audience, or we're gonna, like, give me more details on that. And I would have liked more information on who the community is and the relationship with everybody in the museum to the community. They could have just been a little bit more forthcoming with that. One of the letters, it was like for a period of time. They mentioned that it for a long period of time that there wasn't a lot of community connection to the museum. And one of the letters, and that is being changed. So that made me ask more questions about why isn't the community involved and how are you changing it? So I wish they kind of were very flippant with the underserved question, kind of dismissive of it, and just being rules is underserved and talking about serving underserved. So answer all the questions thoroughly. That's all I have.
Thank you, Dawn. And Susan or Erica, do you have any additional comments?
I wanted to say that I thought the for artistic merit, I did not know about Impact Arts before reading this. And so I just looked at their webpage and saw some of their past work and who they were. And I think they're based out of Kearney. I just love the idea that this seemed like kind of a new, youthful, vibrant group of young artists who were kind of making a career out of this and serving some of these smaller communities. And I love that idea. So I thought that was great. And I also, I had written down, and I'm looking at it again, I really like the letters of support. I think maybe some of these, the smaller towns that can reach the people who are going to experience and live with this art every day, being the ones to write in support of the murals is I think kind of an important thing for me to be able to read. So I thought the letters of support were really good.
Thank you, Susan. Anything else? Erica. Okay, thank you. Take a moment to finish your scoring and give me a sign when we're ready to move on. Thank you, Dawn. Thanks, Erica. Thank you, Lindy and Susan. Thank you. All right. We will move on to the Healing Ribbons grant application. Please give us the synopsis, Rachel.
Thank you, Sarah. This grant will help amplify Indigenous voices by funding artists for the art of healing, stories, stitches, and the sacred fashion show, and the Gather Round for Healing Community Round Dance, celebrating Indigenous culture and an appreciation of Indigenous arts in our greater Omaha community. 3 culture bearers mentoring 60 Indigenous women and children will create regalia for use in the round dance and fashion show with an estimated audience of 1,000 people.
Thank you, Rachel. And I will turn this over to our primary reviewer, Dawn.
Okay. So a really great group of traditional artists are engaged in this project. Very high quality partners and organizations involved. They've built a lot of support from multiple places. The artistic narrative was very comprehensive. The narrative used language that is meeting goals of the project. Just they need to be careful about being repetitive, and sometimes they don't clearly define and explain the actual artistic process that's happening in these circles. And I wanted more detail. I kept wanting more detail. So it would be definitely beneficial to this application to really articulate the details of what's happening in the workshops, how and who is the expert in wellness practices, especially because they are talking about also doing there's some different healing modalities and things, like who's taking care of that and who's the expert in that area. For planning and evaluation, they have a really excellent budget. They've demonstrated that they have a lot of other support through funding streams, which was positive. The goals and outcomes are very broad and foundational. And I think that's where, because the goals do talk about ritual again, about meditation and nonverbal healing that happens in the group. And so, tell me more about it, who's in charge of that and who's doing that, and what are those outcomes that you want to see for this group, for those goals specifically. You had some patron goals, and I wanted to know how they were different from the overall project goals. So, but they're doing a lot of work here. So I think I have a lot of questions more than, it was a strong project. So I have a lot of questions that I wrote down in my comments as opposed to like positive and then negative. Because I really do think that this is a really strong project, and they've had a lot of good success with it, and definitely in support of it. I like that they're strengthening community ties. It's a testament to the resilience of and celebration, and that they're also saying that they are making economic development contributions as well. So I wanted to let the applicant know that it's okay. I think it's okay just to focus on the Native community only. They do have a really broad reach, and I'm like, it's all right to just focus on your own community, because it was hard for me to understand where the BIPOC audience and larger institutional organizations, was it necessary in a way? And how do you protect, if you're working on healing with your group, how do you protect them from continual cultural appropriation and cultural harm that happens sometimes? I would have liked a little bit more detail on how how personal trauma relates to fashion, how the women's stories are created in a piece. I would have loved to hear that detail of the personal story. And then how do you share that with the public to make sure that people are protected and safe? And that goes along with the social media narrative and postings that honor, respect women's personal space and story. They didn't really talk about the expertise in regalia or cultural arts of the leaders, which I would have liked more information. And okay, I think that is all I have. I think it's a really positive program. I think I just have more questions because I want to see more done because I think it's just really amazing. So yeah, that's what I have, and I appreciate that they're in their evaluation, they're being responsive to the community need by listening to what the last evaluation said and bringing in family, and they're feeding people and creating community, and I think that's wonderful.
Okay, thank you, Dawn. And Susan, you are our secondary reviewer on this app. Mute. Thank you.
Oh, actually, Erica is secondary on this one. We changed it last week. I sent out a new one.
Yes, I'm looking at the old version. Thank you, Rachel.
Okay.
Okay.
Erica looks surprised too, so.
All right. We'll be nimble.
Yeah, because I did have notes, so it's all good. I wanted to say how much I appreciate. I know I just keep looking at budgets and narratives and how they match, but it's important. It's the money way to say the same thing. And I truly appreciated that the applicant recognized the different creatives that really make an event possible and compensating each of those creatives fairly. So their artistic fees are very clearly broken down and acknowledging that this isn't just about the audience. This is about everybody that makes this able to happen. So that I think was very, very strong. And I just wanted to make sure that that was said out loud, that that's the way to line out where your fees are going and acknowledge the importance of your videographer, your stitchers, your makers, your creators. And let me scroll back up to artistic. For me too, the mentorship in the narrative was also a really big component in making sure that cultural traditions are passed down. So writing the mentorship of new generations is really in there. There are just so many yeses there with the partnerships and the impacts on early learnings for me. I think those were my major notes for this one. It's also a very small request for a large budget, which I think accurately reflects the scope of this program. So I think their budget is a good reflection of they're putting money where their mouth is, as far as they know that this takes a lot to do all of their goals.
Thank you, Erica. And Lindy or Susan, do you have any additional comments?
Yeah, I like this one a lot as well. I scored it I think pretty high because I think everything was there for the artistic quality and the outreach engagement, really great partnerships. I just think the whole project of engaging, having women come together to create these items that are significant to the particular cultural group is a great way of healing because of that community that is built during that. My only just questions are with the budget having it looked a little bit like the admin fees were perhaps a lot higher than the artistic fees. And so it looked like perhaps the admin fees were like maybe for the entire organization and all of the programming that they do. And then the artistic fees were just for this one project. And so I just think kind of breaking that down a little bit more to include the admin fees that were just part of this project versus admin fees for what overall the entire org does would have kind of just clarified that, because I think it's good to see that for any one project, the admin fees are less than the artist fees usually, but other than that, I thought this was fantastic and really great project, good impact that they're making.
Thank you, Susan. Lindy, do you have any comments? Okay, all right, thank you. Good observations. So everybody take a moment to get your scoring, shore up your scoring, and give me a sign. Thank you, Susan. Thanks, Dawn. Thanks, Lindy and Erica. Thank you all. I see it now. And Rachel, is this a good place to pause for a break, or would you like to move on to one more grant review?
You were reading my mind, Sarah. Actually, I was going to ask the panelists, how are you guys feeling? Do you want to take a break now, or do you want to do one more and take a break? One more?
Got it.
One more.
I love
Okay.
this.
Love it.
We will move forward. We're on a roll. So our next grant is Ivy Black Girl with the community mural. And Rachel, please give us a synopsis.
Ivy Black Girl has finished their capital campaign for office and programmatic space in the heart of North Omaha, where they are bringing vital resources to their community of Black women, femmes, and girls. They're thrilled to launch a mural installation in the courtyard of their newly renovated building and are working with the local art plug for this process. The mural on the building will be done as a collective community effort from the design to the execution.
Thank you, Rachel. And do I correctly have Erica as the primary reviewer, or did that get?
Now you're worried, aren't you? That was
Yes.
the only change, the one previously.
Okay.
You are good from here on.
All right. Okay, Erica, I will turn it over to you. Thank you.
This one just makes me so happy. Especially in their narrative, I wrote down this quote that they want this mural to resemble the experiences and community within which we live and work. And that to me really talks to community-based mural development. And I feel like narrative-wise, they know what having art that represents you, created by you, makes so much more of a difference than a mural created by somebody else and put on top of your own community. They have a trusted partner to facilitate this, Local Art Plug. And I also wanted to commend their narrative in elevating positive health outcomes rather than negatives that would be so easy to have as a focus, but knowing that showing where health and human services can lead to versus where you're starting. So I feel like their narrative was very strong and really emphasized making sure that the mural project not only included community voices, but is designed by artists from the community being served. Planning and evaluation. I think there was a good grasp on the components needed to pull off a large public mural. Timing wise, murals are beasts that are hard to contain within a neat timeline. So I do feel like expanding that or leaving some wiggle room within a time frame for any mural project or any public art project is wise. So I feel like that could be expanded a bit just to make sure that you've got that breathing room that you sometimes need. And I think that was partially reflected, but for anybody else out there also planning a mural, know that there's weather and there's unforeseen circumstances. So wiggle room is great. But this one might need to extend that wiggle room just a tiny bit. Budget wise, I would like to see a little more clarification and breakdown of the large components. How many artists are sharing the artist fee line item? I also noted that the supplies for the mural itself were equivalent to the supplies for the listening sessions, and that too might need some adjustments. That listening sessions done well do take materials, but murals take more. A muralist, even though there's not one selected, could be used as an advisor to help get those numbers into a more realistic split for needs. Outreach and engagement. If I could give more points for this, I would. Strong partnerships and strong grasp of how to reach people, who can facilitate, and the grounding within community as a driving force. Yay.
Okay, thank you, Erica. And Susan, you are up as our secondary reviewer. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, I love this project too, and I love the organization and the work that they're doing. I think the administration of it is really solid with the organization. Ashley Spivey is kind of a powerhouse and is doing a lot of things, so I feel confident that the project has good administration. I don't know as much about Local Art Plug, and I don't know that there was I would have liked to have seen more information about that entity. I'm familiar with them, but I don't know how much work they've done with murals. One of the things that looked like to me that there wasn't a lot of experience with murals, and part of that is a lot kind of echoing what Erica said. I think the cost of the listening sessions was really high. And I think the admin fees were high. They're about equal to what the artist fees were. And so I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of a breakdown of what those admin fees would be if they're going to equal the same amount as the mural painting would be. I think the timeline is a little bit concerning as well. Having administrated murals before they do, it takes a lot of time, especially if the artist isn't even selected yet. And so I think it was like a 3-month period from the time the grant project starts until it's going to be done in October. And so that I think does definitely need adjusting because it might take a little bit longer. I think also one of the things that would be great is to have the artist selected before the community meetings, before the listening sessions, because I think it's crucial that the artist be at those listening sessions. I did see there'd be like a primary artist. How many will I guess depending on who is hired, whether you need to have additional artists found, or will that primary artist mural painter have those assistants, because it will take a lot of hands to make it happen. So just a little bit more explanation on that, but having the artist selected sooner than anything else is probably crucial. And I think in the timeline it was not primary in the schedule. I love the location. I think North Omaha has a beautiful growth of murals. And so I think it's great that they want to have another one that represents the women, femmes, and girls who will be frequenting the facility. I think I also, again, with what Erica said, the way that it communicated the visibility of the people who will be there and having them, represented is wonderful. I think one of the other questions I had about that was, I'll look through my notes a second here. Oh, the letters of support were from the administrator, I think. And so I don't know that one really suggests a lot of support from the community. Definitely tells that there's support with another admin, which is good. But having a letter come from maybe somebody who already supports IB Black Girl, maybe somebody who might be a potential client would be great. I think the second letter was really good. I like that. It was a similar organization suggesting that there is a need for the services in the organization. That one I think was for a group that was not in North Omaha, so I didn't know whether or not that really represented the same viewership of this mural. But certainly the organization would potentially serve the same people. So I thought that one was good. Overall, I love the project, and I think it's great. I just did have concerns about the timeline and the budget.
Thank you, Susan. And Dawn or Lindy? Dawn, you have comments?
Yeah, I had a lot of the same comments about the budget and things. And again, more information on who the LAP is and how they're involved. But one of the things that if you're going to put a lot of money to community meetings, which I think is great, I do need more details. And if the mural, they provided a mural, this is what the mural is going to look like already, then what's the need for the community project if you're not going to get input? Or is like, so that always kind of is a trigger for me of like, why do community meetings if you already have the design ready? And shouldn't the artist be involved in that? And shouldn't the artist be at those meetings as well? And so that's the majority of my concern. And I would have liked to seen some evaluation of those meetings, like what is the goal of them? How many people do you expect? Who's going to be invited, that type of thing. So.
Thank you. Lindy, anything further?
Not without being repetitive, but I appreciate what Dawn just said. That was an excellent point.
Okay, thank you. So we will take a moment to score, and then Rachel, I'll let you lead us into a short break and tell us what time you'd like us to reconvene.
Yeah, let's come back at 10:15. Sound good? Gives us a nice even number.
Great. Okay. We will pause here for a moment, and I'll see you at 10:15. by everyone. We'll give ourselves just another minute or two. Okay, I think we're all back. And our next grant is from the Norfolk Area Visitors Bureau. Our primary reviewer is Lindy, and our secondary reviewer is Susan. And I will turn it over to Rachel for the synopsis.
Thanks, Sarah. Stephanie, you made it back, right? Yay. I lost track of time, I have to admit. So you may have popped on and I just missed it. All right. So our next application is from the Norfolk Area Visitors Bureau. The Norfolk Area Sculpture Walk presents outdoor sculptures in a community-wide display for residents and visitors to enjoy. The artworks come to Norfolk after being or from across the USA and remain on site for 1 year. The artists and their work are welcomed and celebrated during a kickoff event. Tools are created to support both fully guided and self-guided tours. This year, they will work with local historical reenactors to offer regular sculpture walk tours during the Saturday downtown farmers market.
Thank you. And Lindy, we'll start with your review.
Sure, beginning with artistic quality. This application was very detailed, very well written, and the project idea was well organized. The project will definitely provide the community members and visitors with quality exposure to both local and regional or national artists, which again, being isolated in the middle of the country and again, more rural areas, I really commend the efforts of these individuals to bring this art to their local people. The local artists who are being incorporated are familiar. The national artists would be new, and the event does incorporate both components to well attract and educate visitors, which I appreciated. The committee selecting the artists, all the members were well qualified, and the selected artists seemed to be experienced and qualified. So I was comfortable with the ability to successfully complete the project. And I thought it was a good recipe for success to bring quality artwork to their community. As I move on to planning and evaluation, I believe the organization has a tangible way to track visitors by tracking logins to the NASW app. And they've also tracked total visitors, and they have a clear growth goal of 10% each year, which seems reasonable and attainable. I appreciate that they were bold enough to put a number to it. Sometimes that's scary because if you fall short of that, either a grantor or you personally can feel a little disappointed about that. So I really commended them for putting the thought into putting a tangible number to it. I think the outline for planning the event was extremely extensive. Each member had their well-defined role. The timeline was well thought out. It was very detailed. And I noticed that they even included a succession plan with to-dos for future years. I myself am a huge list maker and organizer, so that resonated with me. The fact that they laid out their plans for the future, that they're counting on doing this, they're counting on success, they're planning for it. That was impressive to me. Budget was clear and accurate. It was simple to understand. It seemed attainable for the scope of the project. And regarding outreach, the organization clearly has a good understanding of Norfolk's demographics, and they have a clear vision on how they want to include more audiences in the downtown arts and creative district area by engaging them with this art walk. They've identified the art walk will be accessible both physically and linguistically by placing the pieces in accessible areas. And they're also incorporating a bilingual app and promotional materials, which again, I appreciate their efforts. It seems that maybe there are limited resources there, so being able to do that is wonderful, and I appreciate them taking the time and the effort to do that. They have really good ideas for social media engagement, and I really like their idea of utilizing the historic reenactors for tour guides and incorporating not only the art and the artist information, but also their city and their downtown historic information into their programming scripts. Again, I'm big on audience sharing and on cross promoting. So I think that from a marketing perspective, that's really, really a wise move. Their 2 letters of support were passionate, they were factual, they outlined clear ideas of how this will benefit and help their community. So I felt it was very positive. I like the application, I like the project, and I was very supportive of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindy. And Susan, you are up for the secondary review.
Okay, I also thought this was really good. I like to see how we got to see a little bit of development of a community that already has the sculpture walk across Nebraska. And so the way that they're building this out and creating a lot of activities surrounding it, I thought was really great. I liked the kickoff event and the historical reenactments. I see, a good range of regional artists. One of the things I like to see, to make the project and the artwork more important and meaningful to the community might be to see if there is a way to create some more diversity among the artists of these sculptures, because I think this is one of those, this is a project where you can switch out the artwork and rent them and get different ones. It would be really nice to see a little bit more diversity in the sculpture and the artists represented. Moving on to planning and evaluation, I love the idea that they have the People's Choice Award and that they have money to go with that. I think it's another great way to support artists and to help them create income through art. So that was good, really good promotional goals. I think there are many good voices in the planning of this. It looked like it was directed by a strong group of leaders within the community. With the budget, one question I had were the costs associated with the tours. I saw that the tour guides or the tours cost about $150, I think. And so for a 3-hour tour, I just didn't know, was that because they're paying the tour guides $50 an hour? If so, I think that's wonderful. Art historians need money too. But I just wondered what the cost of those tours was and why that was so high, which is okay. Again, as I said, just having that clarified would be good. And then at outreach and organization, they had a great explanation of the demographics of the city, strong, growth in the Hispanic culture. And Native numbers are a little bit higher than they are in other parts of the state. So again, just finding ways to make the sculpture more inclusive. I do like that they visited the Hispanic Business Council and the Pride Group, and really does look like they made an effort to make sure that everybody is having access to this and that they're meaningful to everyone. So it's great that they made those efforts. Walk accessible to disabilities. I think that's about all I had, but yeah, another great project.
Thank you, Susan. Erica or Dawn, any additional comments? Dawn?
Yeah, I have some. One, I think that their sculpture culinary tours was genius. I think and scavenger hunts, I think that they're doing a great job and engaging the community in fun and new ways, which is great. Some of the basic questions I have, I don't understand the reenactors. I don't see the connection, and I wish they would have told us why reenactors. I don't get it. And I apologize, and maybe it's because I think, how does that work? Why? There was a mention about Public Art Council. I was wondering why they weren't involved in this project, or like the selection process. Are they involved in that? I do like one of their goals is to increase art partnerships and appreciation, which is always a positive, bring more artists in. And I appreciate that they're working with the Latino Business Association. How are you gonna, and it goes back to something that was already said, but with the larger, the demographics of the population, like diversifying your artist selection, maybe doing different tours and things like that would be helpful. And there was one last thing that I wanted to say. For visitors, they use quotes around community. I'm trying to find exactly what I wrote down. Community groups. I don't know. It for tourism, it kind of put me off a little bit. Like, why are you putting quotes around community groups, and identify what community groups you're working with? And don't, saying that public art is for everyone in the underserved isn't quite enough. Like, give us more. Like, it could be anything, but don't just write off that question because it's important to the funders. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Dawn. Erica.
Thank you. I had some of the same questions about, I enjoyed the inclusion of guides that are local to tie it to local. The question for me was, are they guides to the sculptures? Are they historic reenactors that are stories that are reflected in the sculptures? And how does that artist input flow into that process? I would say, I enjoyed hearing somebody else say historians need compensation too. So what if they are art historians that are doing that tour that can make those leaps between community and visiting sculptures? And with that outreach too, not just having a more diverse group of sculptors, maybe that's what outside of their control in what they can pick from the SWAN resources, but they do have control over who are the guides and who are the community members that are guiding people through this walk. So I think there is a mechanism to increase the diversity of the artists being shown with that local community component that they have written into it. So I think some of that language might be the confusing part for me of, if it's a historic reenactor that's reenacting an unrelated story, I don't see how it relates. If it's an art historian or a community member leading people through both local, regional, and national stories, I do see how it relates. So that was the point of clarification that I would have liked.
Great, thank you. Okay, we'll take a moment to finalize the scoring on this grant. Thank you, Susan. Thanks, Dawn. Thanks, Erica. Thank you, Lindy. Okay, great. And now we will move on to South Omaha Neighborhood Alliance. And I will start with letting Rachel give us a synopsis, please.
Thank you, Sarah. The goal is to paint a symbolic mural that will be derived from Latin American art. The mural will be clearly visible from the 24th and N Plaza intersection in Omaha. And I am sorry, I am not even going to try to say, is it Quinzel? I am going to say it wrong. So I'm going to let someone else, probably Dawn knows how to say it, and she will instruct us. Is a beautiful bird with a long tail and is a symbol of freedom for the Mayans and the national bird of Guatemala and sacred for the Aztecs. We have a goal of bringing community together to connect over a shared heritage and build bridges that lead to other potential projects in the neighborhood.
Okay. All right, thank you, Rachel. And our primary reviewer is Dawn.
Okay, it's Quetzal, and I think I must have been really busy. And so I don't always start with like, I should have been writing down positive comments all along. I do think that this neighborhood seems really vibrant. Someplace I'd like to go visit. A lot of artists, a lot of murals. And so it makes sense to highlight the Mayan population, especially, and that connection between the Mayans and the Aztecs, especially with a lot of Guatemalans moving into like Sioux land and different places. I don't know if that's happening in Omaha, but it is along the rest of Iowa. A lot of our communities have switched over, and I think it would to Guatemalan, and it would be nice to give them a sense of home and belonging in Omaha, which you've done with a lot of murals. When it comes to artistic quality, I do believe this was part of another grant that I've read before as part of Nebraska Arts Council. I get really confused on who is who and who's doing what. It seems like it doesn't explain who the summer mural, what is that mural organization called? Summer Nights Murals or something like that. The difference between that and the Neighborhood Alliance, like who's doing what and who's involved. It does appear that there is a group of Latino artists, muralists that are very accomplished, really great work in a variety of work, young muralists in the area. And I would have liked it from their voice, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Also, I don't understand who is it Correa family is and how they fall into this project. It does appear that they've created these really impactful community input sessions. However, it's what is the point of the meeting? What's going to happen? Because it seems like I've seen the design before for the mural. And if you already have it designed, then what is a community? What's the point of the community input sessions? As far as the artwork goes, a lot of talented artists, I already said it, but the Quetzal mural that they're proposing is pretty basic. And especially when you're talking about Mayan art, it's so encompassing and it's so detailed and a lot of different designs. And I feel like input would be really helpful with this mural design. So with the planning and evaluation, one of the goals that was listed is this community building portion, but it seemed like an afterthought. Like they're just handing out flyers for the community meetings. There's really no budgetary items up for the community meetings or any press releases going out. So how's that goal going to be? Like why that goal and how is it going to be evaluated? Because they're really missing an opportunity if they're not going to evaluate community participation and voice and artist voice in this. The timeline and budget seem to be a little off. And I think because they were pulling from a variety of sources, there wasn't a lot of consistency in budgetary and the timeline and matching. And I think it might be because I think it was submitted earlier. The timeline also, the dates don't match what was listed in narrative versus the timeline. So there was a lot of artists listed as well and artistic positions in the budget. But we were given a whole bunch of artists. So like, I would have liked to know, like, it doesn't seem clear that they have it all figured out yet. For outreach and engagement, again, I think it's a kind of an afterthought of, I have to answer this question. And the letter of recommendations were outdated and they weren't actually specifically for this application, which I find problematic. I feel like almost in some ways that because I have read this different versions from this art group, kind of a cookie cutter kind of approach to grant writing. And there's no, the timeline doesn't include community celebration either. So I would have liked to see more from that. That is what I have.
Thank you, Dawn. And Lindy, secondary reviewer, please.
Without being repetitive, I echo some of the same questions that Dawn had. I will highlight on a positive note that I was impressed by their narrative's effort to include the neighborhood. I imagine that it's probably challenging to have lots of different cultures residing in a very tight spot. And I think that it is commendable for them to attempt to get everyone's input. And I think it's also commendable that they have partnered with artists who are can speak to that culture and who are connected in that way. So that part was very impressive to me. I was also impressed by their pride in their neighborhood and the way that they're hoping that the integration of art into this space will help with not only the community members' pride in their neighborhood, but also people being comfortable walking outside, safety, economic impact, all the things that outdoor art can do. So I was pleased that they were able to incorporate those thoughts. I liked the way that they are planning it in a location where they do different culture activities, like their Cinco de Mayo event, different parades. So I like that they're trying to incorporate the project into, again, audience sharing and larger events that are already going on. But I do echo some of the same questions that Dawn had also. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindy. And Susan or Erica, do you have any additional comments? Susan?
Yes, I think I know kind of the background of the organization. Midsummer Mural is looks like Midsummer Mural, Richard Harrison, who owns that, as well as SONA, are kind of partnering to do administration. The budget showed the breakdown there between what would go to Midsummer Mural and what would go to SONA. And I think that was a very realistic and good allocation of funds there. I think, overall it was only 1,500 to administration. A good amount of the funding going to these artists. These artists also are really solid, strong history of mural painting, professional mural painters. There's no question that this would get done. It would get done on time. The community meeting, I understood the community meetings as being a way to kind of solidify what that image would be with another one of the murals that we looked at today. I think just concept ideas. If there wasn't anything to show this is kind of what we're thinking, sometimes it's kind of hard to judge the merit or to get an idea of what would be painted. So I was all okay with that. I would say, again, the letters of support were problematic. I read the other one first, and it was for an award. It wasn't related at all to the mural. And we have to see that the community, there's somebody in the community who wants this specific project to happen, who doesn't have any other kind of stake in it. And then the second one was from me, and it was from 2015. And that was surprising to me. I know I was asked to write that in the past. I would have written a relevant one for this had I been asked, and I'm trying to think, was I? But I didn't get any follow-up with a deadline or anything. So I do feel like that could have been a gross error. I think everything about the project is right on and solid, except the grant writing, that particular piece of it. So, yeah.
Thank you, Susan. And Erica?
My comments would be repetitive. So thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, we'll take a moment for scoring on this particular application.
Can I say one more thing?
Absolutely, Dawn, go ahead.
It would be nice for Richard. I know that he does a lot of murals in the community to like, and one of his goals is to uplift and support other artists and other mural projects. So uplifting the Latino artists that were mentioned and having them lead this project, I think would be beneficial to it. So that's all.
Very good. Okay, you can let me know when you have completed the scoring on this. Thank you, Dawn. Thanks, Susan. Eric, are you a yes? Thank you. Thanks, Lindy. Okay, we'll move on to the next grant application, which is from the University of Nebraska Office of Latino and Latin American Studies. And Rachel, please give us the synopsis.
So we are going to let Sam work his magic, and Dawn is going to go into a breakout room. So we'll hang on just a minute while that happens.
All right, so Dawn should be able to join that room now, and then, oh, yeah, there she goes.
Great. Thank you so much, Sam. I appreciate it. All right. So this is a biennial art exhibit with the purpose of creating a space for the work of Latinx artists in the Great Plains, whose work is often invisible and lacks support. LAX, which is the abbreviation, addresses these challenges by developing a space to showcase the relevance of Latinx artists and creating a dialogue. The 2024 exhibit will run from September 20th through October 18th, and they will have a keynote speaker and a mixed media artist. And the keynote will be held at the Bancroft Street Market in Omaha on October 18th.
Thank you, Rachel. And our primary reviewer, we will hear from Susan.
Okay. So I thought this was another great project. I like that there's a history of having done this in the past and it's been successful. Anytime we can bring a national artist to our local community is a great thing. I thought the work samples that for Favela were fantastic. I was intrigued by it, and I'm looking forward to having an artist like this and a national scholar come and give a talk that's open to the public. The event itself won an OEAA award, which I thought was great to know that has community interest and engagement in the project as well. I think it's an important event to the community at large, but also especially meaningful to the large Latinx population in Nebraska. Having Favela come is great for local and emerging artists to see a person of color reach that level of nationally known fame, and opening up, including regional artists, is great. Opening it up to this event so that we can see artists from other communities as well come to show their work in Omaha. I think the event can increase exposure for many Latinx artists. And I think it could, especially looking at his work, his past work, it can definitely advance the dialogue of how Latinx people are viewed in our city, where ethnic cultures remain largely in segregated neighborhoods. So I think the goal and what they wanted to do based on the anecdote they had of looking at the art in the CEC, I think this is a project that's really going to accomplish that goal. I'd like to know a little bit more about the subject of Dr. Zapata's lecture, maybe previous ones as well, just to get an idea of how the artwork will correlate with the lecture that they will give. But their background is rich with a lot of culturally relevant experiences and working at top organizations. So again, it's great to have people of that caliber come to Omaha to speak. One of the things that I thought was, of course, having it in the Southfield community at the Bancroft Street Market is great. I'd also like to see these kinds of experiences where we are uplifting and championing a particular demographic of artists go to other parts of the city too, maybe where people wouldn't expect to see an art show of Latinx artists. A lot of people don't go east of 72nd. And so I would love to see more exposure citywide of an art show that has this caliber of artists, regional, even national, and being in Omaha. I think, bringing those conversations about colonization, its effects and overcoming of it, reaching a new audience would be really great to see. I think the administrators have been working on this for a long time. They are very skilled at this. The timeline is really detailed and really good. So I think the planning and evaluation is strong. I love the way that they're going to do evaluation. Comment stickers and social media polls are great. You can get a lot of information through those that you wouldn't just by regular evaluations being sent out to people. Their partnerships with the union, possibly the CEC, is great. It's again, bringing this information in this show to a wider audience is always great. I would have liked to know a little bit more about what those community workshops would be. Is it like a make and take workshop for families, or is it like workshops for working artists to learn a new skill? The narrative on that was just a little bit thin, and I think the budget for those workshops was a little bit high, which is fine. I'm just wondering, like, is that for art materials, or what would justify that cost? I think the other costs for the speakers and for the travel is very realistic. The thing about the budget that I wasn't quite sure on was the cost of admin said $2,500, but the income, so it was $5,000. So my guess was that this is somebody who's putting more time into it than they're getting paid for, but it's through their work in that department. So I don't know if that was just an estimation, were they kind of lowballing the amount of money that admin was actually putting into it, or the time that the work was putting into it to make it match, which it's fine, but it just to explain that a little bit more would have made more sense. Maybe that wouldn't have gone on the cash line, and instead of been other expenses, and then that would have made more sense to me. Everything's open to the public with these, so it's great. Even though it's associated with the university, it's more specifically going to support this particular department in this effort. So I like that this seems like a grassroots kind of organization within a larger organization having the support of the university. So I see that it's accessible, widely available to the community. I'm sure that I would hope that they would put something on there about requesting services for non-hearing people. It's probably part of their standard procedure. Oh, I saw that there was a consideration of ADA to make it accessible. So that was there. And the letters of support, again, I think the one from Freeman Sanchez was excellent. She's having her be one of the jurors was good. She's a well-known, successful artist here in Nebraska. The other one is from Bancroft Street Market, I believe. I don't personally like to see letters of support from people who are getting money from this. So I think having a letter of support, maybe from one of the potential artists, somebody who plans to submit would have been really good, saying how this show could really help get them exposure. Overall, it's a really solid program. I think the marketing that they showed us from previous years was really great. So they have a lot of exposure and a lot of history doing this. So very nice project.
Thank you, Susan. And Erica, we'll hear from you as our secondary reviewer.
Thank you. And thank you, Susan, for a very complete review. A lot of mine would be repeat, but there was one point in here on, I do think this fits into folk and traditional arts too. So I was kind of surprised that there is a no checkbox of, does this program fit in to that area? But I think folk and traditional arts can also be a problematic label, especially when you are self-applying. And that is a big reason for not clicking that radio button. So that might be talking about the whole process. I thought the project as a whole was exciting and wide-ranging, providing a wealth of benefit, but I would like to see how the keynote speaker, which is what the funding request is for, fits into that greater goal. There are good descriptions of the workshops, of the community building, and the visibility, and we can infer how FABLA enhances all of this, but I would like to have seen that more of that specific impact spelled out in the narrative, since that was where the budget was stated to go. That planning and evaluation, well planned, confident in the institution and its people to pull it off. Would like some clarity on what would be included in the materials and supplies needed for the keynote. If that's promotion and publicity, if there's some sort of interaction that would necessitate more materials and supplies as part of that budget item. But I think the outreach and engagements are all built into the program fairly well. But yes, more explanation of how the specific funds being requested fits into that overall goal with the keynote speaker.
Thank you, Erica. And Lindy, do you have any additional comments?
Nothing that would not be repetitive. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody can score. I'll watch for your completion sign. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Erica. Thank you, Lindy. And at this time, we'll bring Dawn back in before we move into our next and final grant review. All right, welcome back, Dawn. And Rachel, go ahead and give us a synopsis on the Village of Steinauer mural project.
All right. This arts project grant will help pay the artist creating and painting murals on buildings located in the downtown area of the Village of, I think, is it Steiner? Lindy
Is it
might
Steiner?
know. It
It's
might be
pronounced
Steiner.
Steiner.
Is it Steiner?
Steiner, yeah.
Thank
Steiner.
you, Susan. Thank you.
I did my homework.
Ah, nice. It's like Norfolk and Norfolk. You know. All right. The first mural will be approximately 60 by 15 feet and will be the main focus. And then there will be a second mural on a smaller building on Main Street. There will also be a third mural, which will be located in a window of the bank and will show one of the Steiner descendants using the bank's first typewriter.
All right. Thank you, Rachel. And our primary reviewer is Erica. You may kick us off, Erica. Thank you.
Thanks. Artistic quality comments. I think the artist does seem very capable. Content-wise, my question is about the subject matter. Is it only being dictated by the committee, or is there some back and forth between the committee and the artist, and most importantly, the community? Especially when you start using words like community-based mural or talking about how murals reflect the community, I feel like that necessitates community meetings and inputs to make sure that it's not simply a patron-based system of a mural designed by a family or a committee that does not have that open dialogue between the community and the artist being involved. So I think being very clear in whose voices are being reflected and how they are being reflected impacts that artistic quality set of decisions. In planning and evaluation, I think it was an appropriate budget for the size and scope of the murals for the artist fee. Although the paint budget did seem a little low unless those walls are in perfect condition. So I think there might need to be some consideration for painting and priming before the muralist even starts. But I did appreciate the extended timeline for that mural completion. Outreach, well, and part of that planning and evaluation, in thinking about the project goals, there was talk about contacting school art programs, but not a whole lot of specifics beyond that. So I would have liked to have seen some more clarity around engagement beyond saying what you know we'd like to hear, and a path to actualize those statements. Because involving could mean you have the students go by the mural once and talk about it, or it could be a community meeting where you are asking students what would they like to see and incorporating that into a design process. So I think having those goals clarified into what is a deeper engagement, and that's where planning and evaluation and outreach and engagement kind of get fuzzy. To do proper outreach and engagement, you have to have that in the planning and evaluation. And so I think those two sections feel like they could be expanded, not breadth-wise, but deepness. So I think that deeper engagement and deeper planning would really be necessary to reflect community within this context. So for outreach and engagement, I think those were my main notes. Like to see more description, conceptualization of community input and school outreach. Will the artist be facilitating classes? Because that would also impact her fee if she's the one directing those creative explorations. Would there be community work days? And are those outside of her painting contract? And is there an existing art program that will be involved? And are they part of that planning process, part of the design process, or vice versa? Is this part of the curriculum within the school, or is the school open to that sort of curriculum? So I think those are some of the main points. Going back to budget, I saw $3,000 for paint for 2 murals and a design work. Again, be very clear, if that is only top paint, you're going to find some hidden cost in any sort of mural wall prep work. If there's not been an artist that's been helping you look at some of these issues. I would like to see a little bit more thought in the budget that comes from an artist's, a muralist's voice.
Great. Thank you, Erica. And Susan, we'll hear from you.
Okay, I thought I had not heard of Steiner before, so I was happy to do the research on it and find out a little bit more about them. I think they painted a beautiful picture of who they are and how this mural will be appreciated by the people in the community. I think they would be a good addition to the village. They seem already very committed to enhancing their built environment. They seem to have a really band together to take care of things. I can see that they put a lot of time and their own funds into the other things that they've done in their community. So I feel like they would treat this whole project with great respect and diligence. I like the idea of including schools, but again, yeah, wondering exactly how, wondering if they'd be invited to come do a paint day or help talk about what will be included in the mural. Are the subjects of the murals decided yet? I know it said they were going to do subjects about the history of Steiner, and that could be a lot. Maybe tapping into the history of the founders. They were a Swiss family, so would there be like designs related to like, if there's anything abstract, would there be something like kind of Swiss folk imagery, or would they look at the original inhabitants of the area? Do the Odo fit into this at all as part of the history of the village? If indigenous population is acknowledged in some way, how would they be included in this? Or are they individual people, families? Are they portraits? For example, the one on the bank window, and I didn't quite get the sense, does the bank window mural kind of is the same artist doing that one as well, or is that a separate thing that's kind of budgeted from the bank itself? So just a little more clarity there would have been good. I thought the artist had a great history of painting signage and murals, and I think her style is pretty diverse, so she could come up with something really great. But again, interested to know like who all will be part of that group to decide what goes on there and what it looks like. I think there's some really interesting, good ways that they'll measure this. I think the goals are genuine. They want more people to come there and see it. They have, you know, the way that they've kind of created their town to be a destination was interesting. So I think that would be another great, if people are already coming there kind of as a destination, then this would be another great way for them to experience the art. The museum seems to have kind of be a place of pride for them. So adding the murals to have the art element would be great. Including the QR codes for the walking tour, including the mural in that. I like that, and having a promotion with selfies is great, because then that can get the picture of the mural widespread across Nebraska. I thought the budget was good, very realistic. The timeline on it was really pretty long, which is probably accurate. It seemed to kind of go more over the winter months. And that might be good for including schools and other groups in this, but just kind of wondering if the weather was thought about, if it's going to start, if it's not going to include the summer. I love the letters of support, very authentic. I think with such a small community, you know, you're going to have a lot of the same people seeing that every single day. And so it's good to know that there seems to be great support for it. So I thought this was a really great project.
Thank you, Susan. Lindy, do you have any additional comments?
I was just going to echo that I appreciate that they made mention that with full and selfless support of the building owners. So clearly they're in tune. They're not tone deaf to their neighbors. They're trying to include everyone who's going to be viewing this and seeing this on a daily basis. And I also liked that the community members have researched, and they listed the different towns that they've gone to research and to look at other murals and to get a feel for what they wanted to do. To me, that says that they're well planned out. They're organized, and they're making an effort to plan this out well and to learn from other communities that have already done that. So I appreciated that. Otherwise, I echo everything that the other ladies have said.
Thank you, Lindy. Dawn, any comments?
Yeah, just I love that people are moving back into the community, which is great. I'm always concerned about historic preservation and buildings, and you know, if what they're trying to do, would they be better off on preserving the building as opposed to adding a mural to it? Just be careful. The goals that were listed was actually a task list just for future grant writing for anything, just make sure that the goals are those overarching goals that you have and not don't provide us your to-do list. And that's really all I have.
Thank you, Dawn. And Rachel, I believe at this time, this ends the public portion of our meeting and the live stream. And I will remind all the applicants that you will be notified in June regarding the funding decisions for this grant category. So thank you, all of you who have joined us for watching today. We appreciate your participation. And Rachel, any final comments?
No, I want to echo what Sarah said. Thank you to all the applicants that joined in. I think this is a great learning experience, and being able to hear the discussion is always incredibly helpful. For those panelists on the call, we will take a break while Jennifer works her magic. So let's plan on coming back at Jennifer, does 11:10 work for you? I know that's only 4 minutes
Yeah,
instead of
that's fine.
5.
That's fine.
All
That
right.
works.
Okay. If you're a couple minutes late, everybody, it'll be fine. But we'll plan on 11:10 coming back.
Thank you.